In 1849, archaeologists discovered 14 clay tablets with cuneiform inscriptions in ancient Mesopotamia, one of the oldest forms of writing known to humanity. Over the years, as these texts were translated, they revealed stories of ancient civilizations and their gods, the Anunnaki. To some historians, the Anunnaki are the gods of the Sumerians, Akkadians, and Babylonians, descendants of the sky god Anu and the earth goddess Antu. However, another perspective suggests that they were beings from other worlds who came to Earth to influence the development of human civilization with advanced knowledge in construction, agriculture, and laws. This mystery fuels human curiosity about our origins and purpose in the universe. Many believe that ancient stone inscriptions might explain how the Anunnaki influenced key aspects of our history, including a possible modification of human DNA. Let's dive into this fascinating possibility. Before we dive into the main topic, it's crucial to learn about one of the oldest and most influential civilizations in history, the Sumerians. Originally from Central Asia, the Sumerians settled in Lower Mesopotamia around 3500 BC in the southern region near the Persian Gulf, in what is now modern-day Iraq. Located between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, they stood out for developing the first form of writing in human history, known as cuneiform, a significant milestone in the evolution of human communication and administration. The dates of the Sumerians' arrival vary according to archaeological research, with estimates ranging between 5000 and 3000 BC. This development was greatly favored by the fertile soil enriched by the periodic floods of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, which created ideal conditions for agriculture. Initially, the Sumerians lived in small villages, focusing on farming and raising cattle and other animals. Over time, however, these villages expanded to form the first city-states in human history, such as Ur, Uruk, and Eridu, emerging from around 4000 BC. In addition to writing, the Sumerians were pioneers in many other innovations. They are often credited as the first to use animal-drawn carts, thus being recognized for the invention of the wheel. The discovery of ancient wheels in their territories supports this attribution, highlighting their essential contribution to technology and transportation. This invention not only transformed trade and mobility at the time, but also laid the foundation for future innovations across various cultures throughout history. Sumerian cities functioned as city-states, each operating as an independent and autonomous unit, with its own administration, ruler, laws, and economic policies distinct from the others. This city-state system was a hallmark of Sumerian civilization, reflecting the region's political complexity and diversity. Archaeological and historical studies reveal that a growing process of social inequality took place in these cities. An elite class began to control large portions of land and wealth, a phenomenon that historians believe may have started during the Ubaid period, but intensified significantly over time. Each Sumerian city was governed by a king, and one of the earliest records of a Sumerian ruler is of Etana, known as the one who stabilized all the lands. Sumerian kings lived in luxurious palaces, reflecting the power and wealth concentrated in their hands. In contrast, most of the population, mainly peasants, lived in simple straw-built houses, highlighting the existing social disparity. In addition to their political and social structures, Sumerian cities were known for their imposing temples dedicated to the gods, called ziggurats. These temples not only played a central role in religious practices, but also served as administrative and economic centers. One of the few unifying features among these cities was the Sumerian language, which facilitated communication and administration despite the frequent rivalries and conflicts between them. These city-states were often at war, seeking to expand their territories and secure access to the region's most fertile lands. Due to these constant conflicts, the cities were highly fortified, protected by tall and robust walls that served both as defense against invasions and as a display of each city's power and wealth. The Sumerians were pioneers in creating cuneiform, one of the oldest known writing systems. Around 3000 BC, they developed this method to record history and daily activities on clay tablets. Cuneiform writing is characterized by pictorial marks made with a pointed tool called a stylus, which was pressed into wet clay blocks. This form of writing emerged from the need to document and manage the activities of the royal palace and the trade of goods, reflecting the growing complexity of administration and economic transactions in Mesopotamia. The Sumerians' innovation had a lasting impact and was adopted by other Mesopotamian civilizations like the Akkadians and Assyrians. Much of what we know about Mesopotamia comes from the translation of these cuneiform records. Among the most significant texts are descriptions of the Great Flood and the Code of Hammurabi, one of the earliest and most complete legal codes developed by the Amorites during Hammurabi's reign. The deciphering of cuneiform began in the 19th century, a task undertaken by historians, linguists, and archaeologists. This work enabled the translation of many ancient documents, providing valuable insights into Mesopotamian life and culture. Although it was widely used until around 100 BC, cuneiform writing was gradually replaced by more efficient alphabetic writing systems. Beyond its historical importance, cuneiform is also a starting point for more speculative theories. For example, in his books, Zecharia Sitchin suggests that Sumerian culture was influenced by a race of extraterrestrials known as the Anunnaki, from a planet called Nibiru, sometimes referred to as the intruder planet. These ideas, while intriguing, are controversial and not widely accepted by the academic community. As archaeologists continue their research to uncover the exact origins of human civilization, there's much to learn from Sumerian manuscripts about the origins of life on Earth. In 1849, a British archaeologist discovered 14 Sumerian tablets in what is now Iraq. These tablets, dating back to the 24th century BC, are the oldest known writings of civilization. The Anunnaki are frequently mentioned in ancient texts, but there is little evidence confirming the existence of a specific cult dedicated to these deities. This might be because each member of the Anunnaki had their own individual cult, separate from the others. So far, no representations of the Anunnaki as a complete group have been found, although some individual records of 2 or 3 members have been discovered. The term Anunnaki first appears in inscriptions from the time of Gudea, one of the most notable princes and later governor of the city of Lagash in Sumer. It is also mentioned in texts from the 3rd dynasty of Ur. In the oldest texts, the term is used to refer to the most powerful and important deities in the Sumerian pantheon. The texts describe a father of all beginnings depicted as a supreme intelligence from the sky, meaning an extraterrestrial being. The first 2 tablets describe how and when these beings arrived on Earth, while the 3rd tablet details how they created and genetically manipulated the human race, suggesting that humanity did not evolve naturally. According to the Sumerians, even the technologies we use today might have been gifts from these celestial visitors. According to these tablets, hundreds of thousands of years ago, these beings called the Anunnaki descended to Earth in their ships at a time when only wild animals inhabited the planet. The animal with DNA closest to humans was the rhesus monkey, our ancestor. Anunnaki can be translated as those who came from the sky. They were said to be inhabitants of Nibiru, a distant planet that, according to the tablets, enters our solar system every 3,600 years. Nibiru was described as having a diameter similar to Earth's, with an atmosphere rich in iron oxide, which gave its rivers and lakes a reddish color. The tablets describe how Nibiru's atmosphere began to deteriorate, and its inhabitants started searching other planets for the materials needed to restore it. Gold, which was abundant on Earth, was the most desired resource for the Anunnaki. Here's an interesting fact about gold to help explain why they needed it so much. Gold contains nanoparticles that can restore the ozone layer and reduce radiation. That's why NASA uses gold panels on space stations and antennas sent into space. These stories, which mix history, mythology, and speculations about extraterrestrials, continue to fascinate and raise questions about the true origins of humanity. While NASA still isn't sure of the exact number of planets in our solar system, there's a lot of speculation about 2 specific orbits that seem to have large masses. In October 2017, NASA published an article about the possibility of an unknown planet. There are 5 different theories suggesting there might be 9 planets in the solar system, along with the possibility of discovering another one. According to the information from the Sumerian tablets, this planet could be the famous Nibiru. If you look at images of the Anunnaki, you'll often see them holding an object that looks like a pine cone, which is thought to resemble our pineal gland. Additionally, the Anunnaki are often shown holding a pine cone in one hand and wearing something like wristwatches very similar to the ones we wear today, which is interesting because this kind of technology obviously didn't exist thousands of years ago. The Anunnaki came to Earth and created gold mines, which they called Eridu. These mines were overseen by their leader, Enki. But the Anunnaki weren't the only extraterrestrials around at that time. They brought with them other beings called the Igigi, who were slaves to the Anunnaki, working in the gold mines. This same story told by the Sumerians also appears in Babylonian records from the 15th century, suggesting that the Sumerians might have been telling the truth. After centuries of mining, the Igigi grew tired of their enslavement and rebelled against the Anunnaki, leading to a big conflict in which many Igigi were killed. As a result, the Anunnaki were left without workers for their gold mines. The story goes that the supreme leader of Nibiru gave his son Enki the task of living here on Earth, kind of like an ambassador, and he decided that Enki should genetically modify a race of humans, making them stronger to work in the gold mines. So creatures were created in a lab, and the result was us, Homo sapiens. There aren't many details about this manipulation, but it's said that the resulting humans were a hybrid species between Homo erectus and the Anunnaki. The Sumerian tablets called this first hybrid man Adamu. Coincidence or not, the name sounds a lot like Adam. Does that remind you of any story? According to these accounts, the Homo sapiens received knowledge and education from the Anunnaki in exchange for their work in the mines, learning many of the technologies we still use today. These first humans created by the Anunnaki were considered special, but due to the high demand in the gold mines, they ended up being created in larger numbers, which led to overpopulation. This caused some of the Homo sapiens to be expelled from Sumer, which is kind of like the story of Adam and Eve being expelled from paradise. The children born from this new race of hybrid humans were called Nephilim. You might have heard that name before. It's pretty well known. Every 3,600 years, the planet Nibiru completed its orbit and passed close to Earth. When this happened, it caused massive destruction because of its enormous size. There's another reference to the planet Nibiru in a book by a Scottish monk who referred to it as the Great Destroyer. So there are several mentions of this planet in our history. The Sumerian tablets describe a catastrophic event that occurred when Nibiru came close to Earth. Black spots appeared on the sun, and electromagnetic fields were sent toward our planet. As temperatures rose, the ice started to melt, leading to massive floods known as the Great Flood. Sound familiar? This story is told in many cultures, and maybe it rings a bell. Because of the flooding, most of the Anunnaki fled Earth. To protect their favored slaves, they built arks, huge boats that floated on Earth for months until the water dried up. This also sounds like the story of Noah's Ark. The Anunnaki discovered Earth and submerged the first Anunnaki city in the world, located where the Persian Gulf is today. The story of the Great Flood appears not only in the Bible, but also in all Mesopotamian civilizations, and even in other cultures around the world. Ice samples collected in Greenland in 2017 showed that, in the past, water levels were at least 425 times lower than they are today, which supports the idea that the Great Flood really happened. Additionally, the Anunnaki's constructions were aligned with the stars, just like the pyramids and other Egyptian structures. It seems like this story is pretty connected, doesn't it? Everyone's heard that the pyramids of Egypt are aligned with the stars, and this fact also applies to other pyramids around the world. This leads us to believe that there's a big star map embedded in these structures. Before leaving Earth, the Anunnaki taught the Sumerians how to establish monarchies, a system that's still followed today, like with the British royal family. According to Sumerian stories, humans were genetically modified by the Anunnaki, beings who came from the sky to work for them as slaves. This narrative is quite similar to those in many other traditions. In Mayan tradition, the story is pretty similar. According to it, we were genetically altered to become what we are today. These engineers from the sky supposedly experimented with our DNA to make us stronger, less susceptible to diseases, and capable of working for them. This mirrors the Sumerian stories. A curious aspect of human genetics is the number of chromosomes. Humans have 46 chromosomes organized into 23 pairs, while other primates, like monkeys and chimpanzees, have 48 chromosomes, split into 24 pairs. This difference is due to the fusion of two ancestral chromosomes into a single human chromosome. This mutation was so significant that it made us a dominant species. However, the idea that such a radical mutation could happen randomly is considered unlikely by many scientists. The presence of a single fused chromosome and the numerous differences between us and our closest relatives, like monkeys, raise questions about human evolution. While modern science doesn't have all the answers yet, these ancient stories about the Anunnaki and their possible influence on human evolution continue to fascinate and raise questions about who we are and where we come from. Whether myth or reality, the idea that we could have been shaped by beings from another world makes us reflect on what it means to be human and how far the reach of our hidden past goes. An interesting fact is that the term religion comes from the idea of reconnecting or connecting back. When we truly connect with our essence, we better understand our purpose, which helps us avoid psychological problems and the feeling of being lost. Humanity often feels lost because it doesn't always know where it came from, and part of this lack of knowledge is fueled by interests that want to keep us trapped in illusions. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Do you also feel lost and disconnected from your past? Leave your comment below and don't miss our other videos. See you in the next videos. Take care.